I'm Mike Uyak. I love to try new things, and I've had culinary adventures all around the world as well as right at home. I've had really wonderful food, as well as some really horrible food. I'd like to share some of my adventures with you, and we'll see if I have what it takes to fix whatever goes wrong. This is Recipe Redemption.
Hello everyone, Mike Uyak here for Recipe Redemption, and I'd like to tell you a story. It's probably about a decade ago. I stopped in our local Asian grocery store, and like I've mentioned before, I like just perusing the aisles to see if there's something I haven't tried before. And I was in the freezer aisle, and I came across a package of these little brown ovoids. They were, about 3/4 of an inch long, maybe about 3/8 to a quarter of an inch in diameter, little footballs, slightly segmented. And I didn't know what they were. I looked on the label, and all it said was Dace, D-A-C-E. And I said, okay. So I went home, hopped on the internet, and learned nothing. Because it was, the mid-2000s, information had not yet quite become omniscient as far as the internet is concerned. There wasn't information on absolutely everything yet. So I couldn't find any reference to dace. I finally found one, and it's a fish. And these were definitely not fish. So I think what they did was they found an item that was the closest in price to what they wanted to charge for these, and just said, yeah, these are dace. They're just like dace. But they weren't. And it was several years before another visit to that market found me in the freezer section again, and they had correctly labeled it. I guess they had actually created a cash register code for these items. And it was one of these. I don't know if it can focus on this or not. This is a silkworm pupa, and they were frozen and supposedly fully cooked. Now, why are they selling silkworms? Because in some parts of the world, primarily Southeast Asia, these are something of a delicacy. Now, why would you eat a silkworm? Well, supply, mostly. The way that silk is made, it's biological. It's a silkworm moth. Lays its eggs, caterpillars hatch, eat mulberry leaves. And at some point, when they reach a certain level of development, they spin a cocoon of pure silk, and they pupate. And the entrepreneurial-minded silk farmer unwinds that cocoon and spins thread for silk. So what happens to our hapless little silkworm pupa? Well, oftentimes they don't really survive very well outside of the cocoon. So you allow a certain number to continue through maturation, break out of their cocoon, become moths, propagate the next generation of silkworm moths. But the rest, many of them don't survive the process. So now you've got all these dead silkworm pupa. What do you do with them? Throw them in a wok. So that's exactly what I'm going to do today, and see how they taste. And just like that, lunch. Now, mind you, normally this would be served family style and be accompanied by a bunch of other dishes and shared among the family rather than just eaten as a plate all by itself. But for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to eat it this way. Now, first, one of just the silkworm pupa. It doesn't really have much of a flavor of its own. There's a sort of a granularity to the insides. It's not gushy. I mean, you'd expect it's a little caterpillar wormy thing. You'd expect it to pop and spurt ooze all over the place, but it doesn't. It's actually kind of bordering on powdery, really. I guess you could say there's a slight nuttiness, but it's more like really a woodiness to the flavor, which is actually kind of appropriate considering that it's spent its whole life eating mulberry leaves. I guess you could say pleasantly surprised. The outside, the exoskeleton, the carapace, is not crunchy. It's not. I've had other insect larvae before, like Mopani worms, and that exoskeleton, that sort of chitinous skin, tends to be kind of tough and chewy, and so it sounds kind of gross, not that this is any better really, but I was kind of expecting the texture of like chewing on a rubber band or a condom or something. It's rubbery, and this wasn't. I mean, there's a little bit, but it's almost like a shrimp shell, which, when you think about it, shrimp are arthropods too. So, I mean, all insects, shrimp, lobster, silkworms, same. They just eat different things and they live in different environments, but they're all arthropods. Now, the garlic chives are great. It's a very light sauce that I made. I mean, just a little bit of hoisin, a little bit of soy, a little bit of rice wine vinegar, just to give it a little bit more flavor than you would get normally. The ginger and the garlic is actually quite subtle in this. I probably could have used more, but not bad. Not great, but not bad. So it bears discussing. Dishes like this may seem weird, but according to some people, this is the wave of the future, or something like this. Entomophagy, or the consumption of insects, is becoming more popular. I hesitate to say becoming more mainstream. It's still considered a little weird. In American culture, the consumption of insects still has a certain ick factor to it. So, in a lot of ways, ethnic dishes that incorporate insects in some way are still sort of fringe. It's still very much a fear factor. But it is becoming more accepted. I tried those chirps, the chips made with cricket flour. Perfectly good. This, once you sort of get past the sort of squeamishness of seeing little caterpillar pupa in your dinner, it's really not bad. It's a very neutral flavor. I think just like crickets, these could actually be dried, ground up, and incorporated into something else. They have that sort of nutty, bordering on woody flavor to them that I think that would lend themselves to baked goods and things like that. They need more flavor than what they bring to the table by themselves. And what I've found with a couple of experiments is that if you overcook these at all, they have that, obviously burnt, but they have that sort of chitinous flavor to them that is not very pleasant at all. So you have to be really careful in handling them and cooking them. But I think just like the Mopani worms I mentioned before, there are things that you could do with these that would help immensely. So drying them out and actually flavoring them with various powdered flavoring ingredients could make them into a crunchy snack. Much like the aforementioned Mopani worms, they actually do. I know there's cheddar cheese, and I think there's like basically a barbecue flavor that they sell in southern Africa. So that is a possibility. And then, as they become more accepted, dishes like this may become more mainstream, may become more accepted by a wider American audience, as it is already in some Mexican restaurants. I've seen where they actually serve toasted crickets as a sort of basically a bar snack. It's a Oaxacan specialty that is again becoming more accepted. So if you're willing to dine a little on the wild side, head over to your local Asian grocery and give silkworms a try. Or if you run across any other products that incorporate insect protein, give them a try. Don't be squeamish. Give them a try, see what you think. Because before long, these may take over the snack shelf, if not the butcher counter. Insects pack far more protein, about 2.5 times the amount of protein per gram than beef or pork, your traditional butchered options. Generally low in fat, a lot easier to produce. They're less resource intensive to produce. So, and in this case, you get more than one product out of them. So it's worth looking into and giving a try. And who knows, you might be at the front edge of a new food revolution. So, until next time, I'm Mike Uyak for Recipe Redemption. Thanks for watching.